Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Jack. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Love it. Is that your actual view or is that a screenshot? That's gorgeous behind you.
Yeah, that's a screenshot of the Continental Divide. So I live up in the foothills in Evergreen, Colorado. So when you come up I-70, you hit this crest that's about 5 miles from my house in terms of that view. So I see that every day that I come back up from the hill.
Oh man, that's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, my wife actually took that picture while we were in the car.
Oh man. So you've got one of those. When we travel back and forth between Charlotte and Louisville going through the mountains, Donna's always capturing the views. They're just, remarkable.
Yeah, it's just inspirational, right? It just fills your heart. Hey, Jack, how's your growth derived practice going so far?
Well, I've been developing my processes, and since we met in May,
Uh-huh.
I'm real close. I'm working with a client right now that is incorporating the Freedom Point calculation and doing a Discover project and then a senior alignment project with her. So
Oh,
it's a perfect kind of business to lean into. So,
yeah, that sounds ideal.
what about you?
Yeah, I've got a campaign going through a company called Connect 365, trying to set up a virtual group, mastermind group, and I'm getting some really good opportunities, but no discussions. It's kind of funny. In the third of my messages I send out, I have a link to the business scan. And I've had 14 people already click on the link, but nobody takes it. And it's the third message. So I was just thinking, warming up a little bit. I changed the messaging on this last one. So we'll see if I get a little better response to that. Good morning, George. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
That it's all in the messaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
Just got to tweak it every day.
Yeah, and George, you had mentioned before on why the business scan versus the Discover is such a better introductory tool to let somebody kind of test drive it a little bit, because there's so much more anonymity, and it's kind of funny when they click on it. I get in my business scan list, it says anonymous, anonymous business, anonymous person, because they're not even starting it. So
yeah, and that's the marketing challenge. And actually, Scott, you've just kind of hit on why I very purposefully stay on my side of the line when it comes to marketing. But we have a new program that we're going to be announcing that actually will run through during the summit.
Oh, okay.
That's being managed by Christine Hollidan until her cup runneth over, and then we'll add. I have a couple of other people who we could add, but it's a mix of landing page optimization, LinkedIn profile optimization, blog spots, the ghost written blog posts, an email campaign, and some best practices. So it should be. I think it'll be really helpful for a lot of people in the community. I hope it'll be, and because we have a professional standing behind it. I mean, she's going to start with a cohort of 5 or more, and we'll have a cohort. So we're going to have good data that we'll then use to fine tune the program. And it's very cost effective. It's arm's length. It's between whoever decides to implement. Do they get some professional marketing help? Although I think there'll probably be some fallout, some best practices that will fall out of it for people who do not want the hand holding. I think.
Yeah, I subscribe to the service from a company that used to be called Link Selling. The guy that founded it, Josh Turner, sold it to somebody else, and then he took a portion of that business, and he's now calls it Connect 365, and it's a done for you kind of program. If you're familiar, George, you're shaking.
You've mentioned it.
seen
I believe
Yeah.
you've mentioned it in the past.
Yeah. So I'm in a 3-month initial process. So they find all the leads for you. They have a program that would be similar to Constant Contact, but it actually gives no indication that it's marketing because it looks just like your email that it actually comes from. It has to go through Google in terms of how they set it up. And then it is, you set up a campaign, they have scripts in it. They, help you modify that. And then you just set it, kind of set it and forget it and wait for stuff to come. And, what I'm finding more than anything is not getting a lot of replies out of it. I did get one reply out of the last mailing that I did. And I've got 297 contacts from them around the country, business owners in my ideal client size. And this one was interesting. He's got a business in North Carolina that lives in South Africa. And he wanted to get into a whole discussion on the upcoming recession and Keynesian economics, why that no longer works. And how business owners need to think much more strategically. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those aren't my clients.
That's funny. The guy's obviously doing a lot of thinking on the topic.
Yeah. Very
Good morning,
bright guy.
John.
He's intimidating.
Scott, did they find the names or did you provide them the names?
No, they go and find them, Jack. They actually generate that for you. So the first list I started in at the beginning of July, I got 193 names, and then there's some. Oh, go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
No. You made me think of something.
Oh,
No,
yeah. So I got a list of 193, and you convert that to a CSV, and then you use that in their system. And then I just got 149 2 weeks ago. And I'm just starting the campaign on that group. So out of that, whatever that adds up to, 350 or whatever, it got down to 297 with don't message me again. And, you put that in there out of courtesy. And then also some bad emails, a few bounced. So I think there's 21 out of 350 that were bounced. So the emails are pretty sound. One of the big issues, though, in these kind of services is because they grab it through LinkedIn, and I'd say 50 to 60% of people on LinkedIn don't have their business email.
Yeah,
they put a Gmail email.
Yep.
So you're actually sending a message to what is their personal, just so they're not get soliciting, I'm sure, in their business, and don't know how to work around that, but.
Well, one of the services that's new to the market from American City Business Journals is it's called Biz Leads, and it's terrific. We're going to do a demo. I'll have Jeff Sauls, who sits at the right hand of God over there, but he's not running this business. It's key to their strategy, and Jeff and I have been friends for years. And it's very cost effective, and it's really good information. So rather than buy the SIP, you buy a big bucket, and it's a big bucket with terrific information because it comes out of their readership, and their readership is 650,000 business owners. So he showed me the data and how to use it, and it was easy to use and sexy. And he said that the results they're getting are very strong. So it could be another good source for outbound. I always draw the line with inbound and outbound marketing.
Yeah.
Scott, I came in late. Sorry.
Good morning.
And wait a minute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
John. Yep.
And so the question I had: were you talking about Copilot?
No, it's a program called Connects 365. It used to be part of a company called Link Selling.
Okay.
And the other aspect of that is they do all the posting for you on, grab articles and so forth and do posting as part of the process. It's only $166 a month. So
my system just.
Oh, sorry, John.
Stopped. Hold on.
Scott, what did you say the service cost is?
166 a month. So they post 30 to 40 articles from a bunch of different sources that you target. And then you have this whole software program. They've got training, that's part of it. And then they grab the list for you as well. And then there's no contract on it. Let's say you end up with a database of 1,000 clients or prospects, and you just say, okay, I've got my fill. Then you can end it there, but you can continue then with the software itself if you like, for a reduced cost.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a low cost, low risk, and I'll report back and see how the results are. The system works really well, and the articles obviously are great, where I don't have to spend any time doing that. It's kind of a done for you service.
Nice.
Gosh, Scott, I didn't want to ask you about the price. I was sitting there thinking that's got to be $1,000 a month. And
Yeah, Jack, they've been doing a lot of different approaches on this. And, they started a few months ago. They decided that people were getting a lot of a huge database in a very short period of time. So they changed to an initial $997 for a 90-day commitment, and then drop it as beyond that is the $166. So for $330 a month, even that is pretty reasonable to start getting all that kind of activity going.
Yeah.
And then it's your choice to continue or not after that.
yeah. And I think the interesting thing is, George, the person, I guess, coming to Charleston is going to be focused on specifically a Discover and core value deep dive.
On the marketing side, yeah, we'll be focusing in on the 3 dimensions of growth, and then core value is the analysis that powers it. But as far as marketing is concerned, it's really, it's a bear. How do we get a business owner to stop seeing us as a hit on their P&L, and to start seeing us as accretive to value? And that's a hard message. It's a hard message to get across. And the good news is that anyone who responds to that message, when we figure out how to do it right, and it'll have to continuously evolve, but those will be white hot leads, because there'll be someone who's, that's a small self-selecting group. So what I like about it is it's this long tail. It really has a long tail impact. You're not just out there screaming, grow, grow, grow. This is about growing profits and the value of your business and making that connection. So,
yeah, George, I picked up a phrase that I'll probably put in my next iteration of messaging from one of the recent blogs that you have posted about helping clients control, grow, and monetize value of their largest asset. I like that phrase a lot. I think that's would get my interest as a business owner, because all 3 of those are interesting perspectives on control, grow, and monetize.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, that's because that's what we're talking about. And yeah, so thank you. I've just made a mental note to go back. I know exactly. It was in the second. It was in one blog post ago. I'm going to go and highlight that. I tend to throw these up on the wall. Sorry, guys. So I came in, like John, I came in a little late. Anybody have something they want to toss into the ring?
So this conversation about lead generation intrigues me. I signed up for Copilot. I don't know if any of you use Copilot. They use IA. They're out of Vancouver, and they use LinkedIn second relationships, one removed from primary. And they have a series of messages from benign to aggressive that you can craft or use, that they have in their archive. And the idea is to get a response that's favorable to start the conversation. And it produced for me a lot of contacts, not all of which were, most of which were not qualified contacts. The problem is when you use things like, president and CEO as filter, you might get the real estate broker who doesn't have anybody but an assistant with the CEO title. And so there was that. I stopped using them because I didn't find it. I got no business from it.
Mm.
And now I've just subscribed to Zoom Info, which is got a good reputation from some people I know who use it, but they use it in a volume setting. So you can, the Zoom Info, is anybody familiar with Zoom Info?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my understanding is that they
I'm not
scrub
sure.
the,
Could you explain a
Okay,
little bit?
sure, Zoom Info is maybe the Mac Daddy of scrubbed databases that claim to have a high level of accuracy, and you can plug in your accuracy requirements. So if I want a 95% confidence rating that the emails are good, then I'm naturally going to shrink the pool of names that come back to me.
And can I interject for one moment?
Yeah,
John?
please, please.
Thank
please.
you. And that is, this is being recorded and will be posted. That accuracy is critical because you can trash your URL. If you go out and you're sending stuff out that's bouncing a lot, you're going to get tagged as spam. It's very dangerous. So it pays to pay for the premium data.
Yeah, and so pay I did. I mean, it's not cheap. And we haven't launched it. We just subscribed to it. And my expectation is that I will tighten those parameters. I will try to select the filters that match the personas of the people and the businesses that I'm after. And then not only provide series of messages like we did with Copilot, but our blogs and newsletters will go out and hopefully we'll get a response. But that seems to be, the effort to get inbound qualified leads that we can convert to an engagement. It seems to be the overriding focus of interest for everybody that I've spoken to.
Yep.
And I don't know that, my hope is that the Circle community, and maybe this is my first time at the Coffee Klatsch, can collectively unlock the secret that works. Because for the most part, we're all fishing in the same ponds, just distributed geographically.
Yes. And anybody have a comment on what John just said?
Yeah, John, just as a suggestion is one of a couple of titles that I found that helped even more so through the LinkedIn are founder and partner. That one seems to get a lot of playback in addition, to the standard ones of owner and CEO, president, those kind of titles.
Great, thank you.
One of the things, guys, so this is an idea that came to me just yesterday, and it's really not an idea that came to me. So John once called me shameless. John, here we go. You ready? Here's another shameless.
Ready.
Over in Tina, the founder of and CEO of LX Council, has a process that is very, very effective. So she runs peer groups and we use her methodology. Steve and John and I are certified moderators. Jack is a participant. John's a participant. I'm a participant. We all participate in these peer groups. Macht's nichts. What matters is that her strategy is to find a strategic partner and then to have that strategic partner help bring people into the peer group. And it hit me yesterday when I was typing up, we had a very detailed conversation inside the LX Council envelope about strategic partners, best practices. How do we identify ideal strategic partners? And we nicknamed it the Goldilocks strategic partner. And what attributes would that strategic partner have? And what struck me as I was typing it up is I said, shit, I was remembering a conversation with one of us, but a year plus ago, that was one of you guys had figured out how to create what is essentially a strategic partner who was feeding him more business than he could take. And if we think about going to, I'm just going to use a stalking horse. Let's take a community bank, and a community bank that has X interest, that has an interest that's aligned with ours as business advisors, that does not provide business advisory services. It could be a CPA firm, a wealth planning firm, an RIA under the Fidelity model. It's, there are a number of different firms, but if we can identify someone who says, you know what, John, I need a business advisor in here helping my client, and I'm gonna steer those to you, and you're gonna respect my relationship with this client, and we're gonna collaborate. How would that work? One-to-one, or between our cohorts in our community, and someone who can bring that work, who where there's strong synergy. So how do we create strategic partners for business advisors to sell growing profit and value?
So
Clients with growing profit and value. Go ahead, John.
So that's exactly our go-to-market strategy. It's a marketing, not one-to-one, but one-to-many, and leveraging the sponsorship of the strategic partner to invite 10 to 15 people in to do a workshop on 3 dimensions of growth. Now, I bet I've had 8 to 10 meetings with strategic partners, and none of them have disavowed or disabused me of the idea and the value. The Pasco EDC is actually the only one that I've delivered that to.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another insurance agency that wants to get started in January because they're booked through the end of the year. But they all like the synergies and the alignment of those interests that you put forward. My conversation to them is that, look, we all serve the same clients, and you struggle to differentiate yourself from the other banks or the other accounting firms or the other wealth management. Here's a way for you to add value with no direct benefit to yourself that curries goodwill on your behalf with your invited clients. They will all leave with actionable value from this workshop. And we will give them a core value report as a pre-read coming into the meeting and marry that up with the 3 dimensions of growth. For our part, we're hoping 2 to 3 raise their hand and say, John, we'd like to explore this more with you. So we're very upfront about what's in it for us. For you, if this client can stabilize their company and grow it in a sustainable way, then the demand for services from you expands. And so that's a benefit. If it's a bank we're talking to, I go right to the quality of earnings and the mitigation of risk for any lending that you might provide to them. So that strategy is well received within the data set of 8 to 10 meetings that I've had. Now, the conversion is the challenge because they're all busy as hell. And they have all these excuses. So for example, Bernstein Wealth Management, Joel Stevens heads the shop. Patrick Buchanan's the young go-getter, or Bonanno is the young go-getter. Both of them were on board with this and brought their wealth management team together to have a conversation that was going to be the predecessor to me coming in and talking to them about this. All of them said, great idea, but we're too damn busy. We don't have time for this shit. And that's what we have found in banks, for example. Commercial bankers are getting evaluated on deals. And so they are very narrowly focused. And the theory of goodwill and, better friendships and all that stuff is great for a luncheon conversation, but they don't They don't act on it. So I'm not abandoning this by any stretch. I'm trying to expand in Pittsburgh and Lehigh Valley right now with the same methodology. But I think I would love the group to test it and for us to come back with what's working, what's not, what objections have we failed to overcome? Has anybody else overcome those objections? Could we ultimately have a strategic partner that provides a testimonial? Those kinds of things, because I think that is an effective way to differentiate ourselves, to leverage the credibility of the sponsor, which overcomes all kinds of hurdles for us personally, and moves the needle faster.
Yeah. I like it.
George,
I like it.
I was
That's
going to
great.
add to that with what John said. I remember a conversation with Francis back in May. Remember, and he was sharing with us within his own culture of his bank that there is kind of a scarcity mentality amongst the, the client managers of not wanting to give access to the business clients. Even internally, he was saying that.
Right.
So, I love that idea of the starting point being probably really identifying what are those attributes of an ideal client, and then what are the key questions to uncover, whether or not, just like we do with clients, right? In order to uncover, is this somebody that I can work with that actually would be invested in this? And how do you get through that? Because John, I think you bring up a really good point. It's a great conversation at lunch, but it doesn't really turn into action because so many folks are so busy.
Well, and what we've done is put a package together that reinforces the notion, look, you're not going to have to do much of this. You're going to have to select the clients that are prospective invitees. That's for sure. But I'm going to provide you the flyer. I'll show you the content of the 3 Dimensions group. I'll show you a sample of the report that they'll all get the benefit of having explained for them. And then I also give them a sample of one of our deliverables should anybody in the crowd raise their hand and want to engage us. So I'm trying to make it as easy for them to say yes and test it, because that ultimately is how we try to close the deal. Look, let's try one and see how it goes. And we'll survey the attendees and ask them, did they like it? And nothing ventured, nothing gained.
And for the uninitiated, what John's referring to is doing a Discover Workshop marketing event, right, John?
Well, yes. The idea is to have them do a report.
Yeah.
I address the report in the body of the 3 Dimensions of Growth.
Awesome.
But what I'd prefer to do, and this is a good segue, I'd prefer to aggregate the results of their homework ahead of the event and be able to put up their aggregated data now and use that as the explanation. So here's a thought that caused me to wake up in the middle of the night, George, and I haven't actually had it with you. What about a mock aggregated data set that doesn't rely on them actually doing the work, that I could put up there and say, look, this represents the room, guys. And collectively, we've got businesses that have the potential for $250 million, but the enterprise value is 175. We've got all this wealth sitting in this room being held up by these 5 issues, and use that. It doesn't matter that it's not really their data set, because in the law of real numbers, that's a true characterization of the issue.
John, I will put that, get that to you today. That is a fantastic idea. And thank you. And I will make that data available to you today.
Because that'll overcome one of the inertia issues that happens when you send them the link to do the do the discovery port, and they don't get it into you, or they don't get it to you in time.
What I'll do is I actually have a great data. I have a very representative data set. I know exactly where I'll go, and I'll take screenshots. I'll put the screenshots into a PowerPoint, and I'll load the PowerPoint into Circle, and I will tag all of you guys so you know that it's there. And I can do that. Should be able to do that today. It only takes a few minutes. That's a great idea, John.
Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
Relative to the conversation we had yesterday, it doesn't seem like the Goldilocks criteria that we talked about yesterday would be any different than the criteria that John's talking about here for.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I was typing up the Goldilocks and I'm like, shit, why doesn't Steve Duke identify an SP? We wouldn't use the term SP. That's Tina's term, but we identify a firm in Charlotte where there are synergies, where maybe putting together a peer group is too big an ask, but it could be an ask down the road. And starting to do some business advisory, and getting to know them, developing that relationship, because it doesn't take long to be like, guys, there's a much more cost-effective way for us to help your clients. And the more cost-effective way is a peer group, where they're spending hundreds of dollars a month, not thousands, but they are getting an outsized benefit because it's not simply Steve Duke bringing wisdom to the table. It is their peers bringing wisdom to the table. I'm going to shut the door here 1 second.
Hey, John, I love that idea. And I'm thinking with that data set, another application of that is going directly to the strategic partner and being able to show that as an example. If this was your client base and we had a dozen of your clients, which bank, to me, that's a no-brainer. Wealth management, that's a no-brainer. And say, look at this, the potential value of the average dozen clients that come into a workshop like this would, the potential value would be $300 million. And then right now we've got a gap of about 75 million. What does that mean to you if that 75 million is captured by your clients? What benefit do you get from that? So I love that application to the Discover workshop as well as the partner, because then the partner is actually at that point seeing the with them, right? What's in it for them?
Yeah,
I think you just demonstrated the value of collective thinking. Thank you for that. You're right. I didn't think of it that way, but on the front end, as a tool to sell the SAP, you couldn't be more spot on. Yeah,
And
George, get that shit to us now.
I want my link.
How would you like that 75 million turn into AUM for you?
Well, that's exactly right. And if we think about, and this goes to an experience Jack just had, when you sit down with a CEO. So what Greg Maddox isn't on this call, but is actually I don't know how many of you guys are on the call in half an hour.
10:30,
yeah. Greg has a process, and he just went out and searched CFPs in Chicago and started calling them. Hey. And he's gotten a bunch of engagements out of it because he's sitting down and he's saying, okay, in you applying it to the 3 dimensions world, let's have the growth conversation. Let's use this model that he's built, or he's taken a model that we all use and he's put in the cloud, and let's talk through the value, the impact we can have on the value of your business. And then we can use Discover to start connecting the dots. And Jack just did that. And Jack, how'd it go?
Well, that conversation just was awesome. The thing I find interesting is I keep going back to the word you have to be agile when you do actually get in front of a business owner. And to me, what I'm learning is that I've got to find where they're at. And George, what was fascinating to me is that from that conversation last week, one of the things that we were talking about was fixing the culture within the business. And then you post that culture thing from Simon Sinek yesterday in Circle. And I figured out, I wish Paul was on the line because, you know, he's our tech guru, but I figured out how to copy your link and send it to her in an email. And twice I've been thanked for that email. So she's read it. I told her to look at it, go through it twice. So, but you know, it's sort of like, you know, I might be thinking, oh, let's focus on growth. But in this issue, she's got some culture issues. And you just, to me, I've got to be patient with what is the CEO leaning into, and can I actually meet that need?
So Jack, don't forget, I think I'm the only culture guy in the community.
You are Mr. Culture.
And so if there's anything I can do to help, we've got some proprietary tools for helping organizations develop high performing cultures. And we've got over 600 installs nationally.
Well, you know, that's great. And I think that's part of this circle and stuff in terms of, you know, you got Greg Maddox with his little part that was kind of fascinating and interesting. And then we have this powerful group of people that have these silos of intelligence that would be great to impart on the clients. So
could you say that louder? I'm going to put on speaker so my wife can hear that. These powerful people in this community. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Well, and John, you shameless self-promotion, please, I would urge you to comment on that culture piece and say, hey, if you ever need help, I mean, purposeful culture is a thing. And you are the leader in this community on purposeful culture. You're the only guy, I think, who has a process. Could be wrong, but and
well, thanks for that. I will.
And see, I would have not known that, John, you know, and yet we've been working together for several months now, and it's fascinating to me. But I was, you know, when Paul put out his website the other day, I actually went to it and was looking at it and was fascinated by it. And I thought, oh man, there's some, I don't have to, you know, reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of stuff here from Greg and Paul, and I'm sure you and everybody, Steve, Scott, to kind of combine what we do work? How does it work? But for me, I think it's learning to really pay attention. What's important? What's on the mind of the client? If I can get them to converse with me, then I think we can move it.
Yeah, I see Scott nodding his head violently. Yeah.
George, is there a link to Greg's Zoom meeting?
I will add you right now, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, I connected with him, which was great. I took that that assessment as a client, which I thought was a pretty cool tool that he had created.
So, whoops.
See, I think he gets all of his business because he's named Greg Maddox in Chicago. Be like John Elway here in Colorado.
I'm just copying this and I'm going to drop it into our chat window.
Thank you.
Where the heck did Zoom go? There it is. All right. And so I'm on my iPad. And I'm not used to stop that. I need the chat. Where is chat?
Or John, Kenny Pickett for you and soon to be in Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm in Tampa.
Oh, you're in Tampa. Oh, okay. So you got Brady.
We got Brady.
And he's back at work.
Oh, is
there it is. There's the link, guys. I just threw it up and I figured out how to get the chat on my iPad.
Oh, thank you, George.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I just got off they completely different. I just got off of a conversation on a financial modeling tool that I really think it's great. It's simple, but it's very, very powerful. And if I think about this financial modeling, these conversations, I don't want to dip in there and steer this conversation in a different direction, but there are a bunch of complementary tools that we can bring into our engagements that really educate the client on how, frankly, some small changes can deliver some big results.
Yeah, this tool that Greg is introducing, I'm going back to two people that love the proposal I gave them, but kicked the can down the road, which is another topic worth discussing, how to overcome the lack of sense of urgency for people doing growth planning or exit planning. And I think that Greg's tool might be a way to do that. So I'm going to experiment with it with these two, but I'd throw that out there to the community as another hurdle that if we solve the problems around will get us more business. That is, how do we effectively bring more qualified businesses into the funnel? And how do we overcome the lack of sense of urgency when we've delivered the proposal?
Mhm. What this, so some of you may have touched VFD Pro, and John, this goes directly to urgency. VFD Pro has a very quick way of showing, listen, if we can implement, let's all of this aside, if we can implement these small changes, here's the impact it'll have on your cash flow and on the financial value of your business. And he's built into VFD Pro, 6 different valuation methods, and it's really slick. And it's all built. What's interesting, guys, is rather than being in the cloud, it's actually built in Excel, which is very, very familiar to a lot of us, and allows the tool to be dynamic in a way that a true software, if you will, rather than a model that's that's locked into Excel. That's a pretty nimble. You guys will see it. It's a pretty nimble tool. Yeah. But John, to your point, we can show the business like, if you just make these small changes and we start right now, here's the impact it's going to have on your cash flow today, tomorrow, next week, and look at the 5-year impact if we can maintain this small change, this 3% change to margin can be worth millions of dollars. Will be worth millions of dollars to you if you can maintain it at 3%. Little small. It's Bob Oliver talks about the 1% change. Because I agree with you. Who was it? It was just, it may have been Leonetti. The client wanted to push kick the can down the road 6 months, but wanted the same exit date. And Leonetti said, that's impossible. You don't have 6 months to spare because you're only talking about, I think it was a 3-year window. You have 3 years. So you're telling us you actually want to sit where you are for half a year and then have 2.5 years to do something that's already going to be challenging. You either have to change your expectations or get started now. And yeah. I want the same result without any effort. So
here, I've got a gym membership for you.
Exactly. Why don't you stick that card in your wallet and watch
watch the pounds melt away.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. There's a lot of really exciting things going on. So, what I'm a key takeaway here is if we were to combine a relatively easy outbound, what we're really trying to do is drive people to our blog posts, to our websites, right? So a relatively low effort outbound with potentially a strategic alliance with even if it's just one group of CFPs or CPAs or what have you, that may be steering some business your way, with things like these workshops, and slide that over with workshops like John is doing. And if you can start pulling from different directions, right? If you're going to put on a workshop, it doesn't have to only be the CFP firms. They might be thrilled to have a new business owner sitting in the room, right? How do we combine these for the win? Because if we can connect our expertise with, I'm on my soapbox, sorry, but getting your expertise connected with these private businesses is the key to making them immortal, because they're running along.
And I think the three, to your point, George, I see there being 3 channels of marketing activity. One is the inbound effort that SEO and blogs can have, and I don't know what the contribution is. The other is the workshops where it's one-to-many, leveraging the credibility of the strategic partner. And the third, of course, is referrals.
Mhm.
And those are the three areas, and they're only the three areas that we're focusing on and trying not to get distracted by shiny other ideas, because I think those are the ways, leveraging technology and content. And I just hired a woman. Well, actually, we're almost finished with the project, but she teaches SEO at the University of Washington in Seattle and has all these big box retailers as clients. And so she's gone through the keyword, short tail, long tail keyword analysis to say, John, you've got great content, but you could modify content with these keywords and you should be more visible to the search engine. So that'll be one piece. The other piece is Zoom info or LinkedIn sales or Copilot or something that's pushing content intentionally to qualified prospects who need to or want to hear our message, so that they push the call to action button and become visible to us. And then the others are leveraging the strategic partners. And I don't know how else, referrals, and I don't know how else you do it effectively.
Well, and John, to your point, if you have these three, let's say we call these the three channels, which is a great term. We need to have, it's hard to have the institutional, the personal patience to wait for it to start paying off. It is hard because you have to wait. It is only effective over the long term. There is no magic wand. People have to be intrigued by your message. They have to be intrigued again. They have to be intrigued a fifth time, a seventh time. And that's when you'll start seeing movement. And, or at least every experience in my career has taught me that you really, and it's hard because you're white knuckling it. You're like, man, this might not be working. Especially, I used to place, full page ads in the Wall Street Journal. It takes a while for those to pull, and you are gripping the edge of your desk, like, oh my God, the phone's not ringing. And then, so we need to have the institutional patience. One of the things that I will be doing for you guys is going out and saying, okay, well, how do we start promoting growth drivers to CEOs? And that's not something for today or tomorrow, but as part of our long-term support for the community, we need to, we're not going to start doing like a CFP program, but go out and create awareness that there are things that CEOs should be thinking about. And if they want to have a further conversation, here are the folks with whom to have it.
Yeah, George, I think you make a really good point in terms of the the outbound marketing aspect to semi-qualified prospects, if you will. That's one of the things in the service that I'm in right now, that you have a coach that you meet with every 2-3 weeks to review results and so forth. So she had just shared with me 2 weeks ago when we had our last conversation that in that initial 193 that we sent out, which are down to 150 or whatever the number is, that the 3 messages have gone out. You only got 1 reply. You had 14 people click and do nothing with the business scan. So I modified the message. She said, but now what you can do is really make that into a nurturing campaign. Because the good news was they did not choose the do not message me option.
Yes.
Right. And then she said, just figure we're going to write a handful of content messages, which I really want to utilize, the essence of what Growth Drive is all about, for ongoing long-term nurturing with this group. And like you said, I think patience is probably the greatest and most difficult virtue as it relates to generating opportunities to connect with potential prospects.
Yeah,
I
I was going to jump in just before Scott did and make that point. We hadn't overtly mentioned the long-term nurturing campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked around it, but that's what Scott's alluding to there. And
yeah, probably a 4th channel, Steve, right?
so we need, once we've got the contacts, then we need to put them in the the drip campaign, send him
Mhm.
periodic value and
Now,
talk
now,
about the pain and yada, 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 but follow the textbook.
yeah, my concern, I have a couple of concerns, and I always, it took a long time for me to realize that maybe if something's bothering me, it's bothering a lot of other people like me. That I have a couple of concerns. One is with LinkedIn, and if I don't know what your personal LinkedIn experience is, but I get reams, my contact information, my real email address, and my real phone number in there, and I get reams of solicitations. I literally don't look at them. Some people actually go and open up my profile and find my email address and email me directly. Those make it into my inbox. That's interesting. But then, the poor quality of those outreaches, I always read them because I want to see what are people saying, what resonates, what do I think is great. And I tend to share those with you guys. And what do I just like, click. And I always divide the click into two categories. One, this is junk. It's just not good. The other is interesting, but not me right now. And at least the interesting, but not me right now has been intriguing enough. They found the right guy.
Mhm.
Well,
The other is when you have this long list. So let's say you buy 1,000 names, which is relative. Zoom Info is going to give you terrific data. You guys should check out the American City Business Journals has Biz Leads, BIZ leads. And we're going to, we'll put on a demo for the community here shortly, hopefully maybe in September. But it's very cost effective, and they're really good. It's good information. And it's very, again, cost effective. What do we send them? And what I've decided to send from Growth Drive, and I've had a person that I pay to build to do individual outreach to these people. Go find them on LinkedIn, but then go find them in their firm,
Mhm.
get their real email address and email them. And we've built a list of 1,200 over the last couple of months, 1,200 people. And then once we had that list, I did nothing with it. Now I'm blogging. I made them all blog subscribers in HubSpot. And now you're going to see these blogs going out. They're topics that you guys have seen before. I apologize. But, as Scott said, there may be some nuggets in there. But this is blogging on, okay, what are the 3 dimensions of business growth? Why do we care about profits? Why do we care about value? What's the methodology? What are the tools that are at your disposal? What kind of training and support is available to you? And those blog posts, and again, that's a personal bias, but it's being willing to wait for those blog posts to go week after week. And guys, it's working. It worked from the first article, which is very different than a nurture. It's a long form. So the people that I believe the people are going to read that article at least far enough to get to, there's always some little call to action. They'll either fill out the form, they'll subscribe because I have a pop-up that comes up, but those are generating real, we are converting people into we had a person I've never heard of before, but is going to be in the next launch course in September. That's one, but there will be, as we continue to talk to this group, there will be more. And then there, of course, you can use automation to do all sorts of stuff with them and push them into a nurture. But we have to be careful with, I don't know, it's a personal bias. I'd rather send an article to them that we've written than, I don't know how effective, and this is where we turn to your coach, Scott. How effective are nurture campaigns as if we're picking one option?
Well, there's a study by Microsoft that, remember in marketing, we learned that it takes 7 touches
Yep.
to reach somebody. Well, that's extended to beyond 9 now.
Mhm.
And one of the things this report from Microsoft pointed out is that, and I think it's 86%, it might be 92%, but by the 3rd touch, 92% of people trying to make that touch drop off.
Mhm.
So if I'm trying to call you, reach you, I am probably going to abandon that effort by the 3rd time, which means that there's less competition as you go down that nurturing path
Fascinating.
to ultimately be the last man standing who has something worthwhile to say. So the things that you said about patience discipline are supported by at least that Microsoft report.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not surprising. Yeah, that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, John. I'll give me
Yeah,
some.
I see.
And by the way,
I-
yeah, my buddy Donald Miller would subscribe to that same theory.
Yeah, I got to drop off because of the 10:30 that's coming
Yeah,
up.
ditto.
But
Ditto.
I
This is a
enjoyed
great
this.
conversation. You know what I'm going to do? I'll take the comments I put on Goldilocks in the LX Council circle, and I'll put it into sort of food for thought in our community, in the Growth Tribe community. Just
Great.
let's see. Just trying to help you guys connect. All right,
Great.
guys, shall we call it?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
All right, guys.
I'll see you guys.
Good to see everybody.
Probably see all of you in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Perfect. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.